Hello, everybody. It is I, Miss Corey, and today we are going to talk about the rise of Rome. I don't 100% know why my little face square isn't showing up, but whatever, maybe it'll pop up later. It'll be a surprise. So the fun thing about this unit of Rome is that we're actually transitioning out of the BCE, so the before Common Era, and now we're going into the CE, or Common Era. But there's a little bit of the BCE before we get to the CE. So your job, of course, watch this ed puzzle. Questions that I'll ask will be in blue text, follow along with your study guide. Important concepts will be in red text. And of course, if you have questions, email me or come to office hours. I know in some of your feedback recently, you guys are like, well, not all of you. The majority of you do like my ed puzzles, which thank you. And then I had some feedback too to make them a little bit shorter. So I will try my best to do that. I know I have a lot of information to get through. And hopefully this unit I will also be able to switch up from just doing ed puzzles all the time because I know that's boring for some of you. All right, so your learning targets are students will be able to explain the mythological and historical way Rome was created, explain the basic elements of the Roman state, and explain the basic elements of the Roman Republic. All right, first question. When you hear ancient Rome, what do you think of? Yeah, there might be a lot of different things that you think of. You might think of the Colosseum, which is a gigantic tourist destination today. You may think of the Roman Forum. That's what's down here in this little corner. Maybe you think of the aqueducts, which you'll learn about this week as well. Maybe you think of the Roman art and the Roman emperors, like this dude right here, that's Augustus Caesar. Maybe you think of the gods. Yeah, so the Roman gods and the Greek gods are pretty much the same people, if I should, yeah, people divine? Yeah, whatever. But they just have different names. Maybe you think of gladiators, which we'll totally be talking about. You might think of the rise of Christianity because Christianity came out of the Roman Empire. And you just might think of tourists because Rome is a very big tourist destination today. Okay, well, this breaks my heart. So typically, like, I remember when I was taking world history back, way back when I was in the 11th grade, and we watched the movie Gladiator with Russell Crowe, and it is the best movie I have ever seen in school. And usually, like school movies aren't that great. This movie is fantastic. So I'm really disappointed I do not get to show this movie to you all. Um, I wish I could, or even clips, but it is rated R. But I found some gifs. Oh my gosh, it is such a good movie. Like seriously, if you're into like historical films, oh, so good. And the best part of it is when Russell Crowe touches the wheat in the wheat field. He has wheat hands. Look at him touch that wheat. Yeah. All right. But if you do take my history through film class next semester, we will be watching Gladiator. That's like on the top of my list to watch, and some other ones too, and some other ones I have yet to decide what we're going to watch yet. I don't know. All right, let's go back to Rome. All right, so Italy's landscape. Italy is just a gigantic peninsula. It also includes the island of Sicily, which is right down here at the end of the boot. The city of Rome is in the middle of the peninsula. I'll show you on the next map of where it is specifically. It is a halfway point between north and south of Italy, and it is not directly on the sea, but it is about 15 miles away. The Tiber River and hills surround the city of Rome. Um, Not only will the Tiber River give a good water supply, but it's also a good protection from invasions. It is super hilly and mountainous in Italy. But unlike Greece, they have actually really good fertile soil for farming. So that's kind of like a +1 on ancient Greece. All right, here's a big map. As you can see here, I put a little tiny red star in Italy. That is where Rome is. All right. So you can see here the whole Italian peninsula. Greece is off here just to the right. You can see that Italy is pretty close to North Africa as well. And then, of course, it borders with what modern day France is too. All right, here's kind of just a landscape picture of Italy. So you kind of have these really big mountains, and then you also have these kind of like smaller hills. So when we're talking about the Roman Empire, there are three phases to the Roman Empire, okay? Or I shouldn't say even the Roman Empire. That's actually just one of the phases. So there are three phases of Rome. The first phase is the Roman state. So what the Roman state was, it was between 753 and 507 BCE. And at that time, Rome was pretty much populated by colonies of Greece. Okay, we'll talk a little bit more about that in this coming slide. Also, that is when Romulus and Remus were about. We're going to talk about who those two people are as well. And during the Roman state, there were a total of 7 kings. The second phase is the Roman Republic. That was from 507 to 31 BCE. That is when the government of Rome was ruled by the Senate. It was also oversaw by 2 councils. And then third is the Roman Empire. That is from 31 BCE to about 330 CE. Now, different historians might give you a different answer for that, but that is where you're going to get Roman emperors, which we will talk about this week as well. All right, so today we're going to talk about the Roman state, and then we are also going to watch a little video in between all this about the Roman Republic, and then the rest of the unit is going to be focused on the Roman Empire because that's the most fun. All right, so Italy as a colony. So between the 700s and 500s BCE in Greece, Greece's population and trade were booming. All right. So if the population's booming, they're going to need a lot of food to feed these people. They also needed resources to make items for trade. Greek city-states sent out ships of peoples and supplies to start colonies. Yes, this might sound really familiar. The British did this to North America in the 1500s, right? And that's like, the Revolutionary War and stuff kind of came out of that. Yeah, it's a pretty similar concept. Um, British wanted more supplies, dominate more land. Greek city-states wanted more supplies. They wanted to dominate more land. All right, so you see here's a map of Greece. That's kind of in that pink color. And then you'll see all the different routes that colonists took from Greece to different parts of Europe, North Africa, and a little bit of Asia. So there was other Greek colonies besides Rome, but we're just going to focus on Rome. All right, so the goals of the Greece city-states colonizing the Mediterranean. First of all, it was to spread Greek culture. We talked about that last time with Hellenization. Also increase the land and city-states rule. To get land that's better for farming, Greek soil is, again, not good for farming at all. Also get resources such as metals, food, lumber, animals, stones, and etc. Look at that wheat field. It's majestic. All right, so Roman state. All right, so there were several Greek colonies surrounding this hill, and it's a very special hill. You can still visit it today. It's very, like, I don't want to say sacred, but really important to the Roman people. It's called the Palatine Hill. Um, so all of these colonies surrounded this Palatine Hill. Most of the people in these colonies were farmers. So poor farmers had just little small plots of lands. Wealthy farmers had big plots of land. And what happened is, as the wealthy farmers became more wealthy, they got more power, and then they created something that called the Council of Elders to use as their government. All right, so here's kind of the long story short about the Roman state. So the Council of Elders unified all Greek colonies surrounding Palatine Hill. So the Council of Elders forms into something called the Senate. And what the Senate was is where elected officials are given power. The wealthier the senator, that would equal the more voting power that individual has. One king ruled over all of the unified colonies. Yes, Rome once had kings. Um, and to be more specific, from 753 to 507 BCE, there were 7 kings total. Um, so the capital for the king and the Senate were built upon Palatine Hill. Um, and then eventually that city that was built upon the hill would be named Rome. All right, so the Roman state ends. This happens when the last king, his name was Lucius Tarquinius Superbus, he murdered his father to become the king. Isn't that so nice? He also murdered any senator who didn't agree with him, and he became super power hungry. Um, Luckily, this dude named Lucius Junius Brutus led a rebellion against Tarquinius in 507 BCE. Here's a really freaky statue of Brutus. Senators created then something called the Republic, and this leads to Rome's second phase, which would be the Roman Republic. Yeah, that statue's creepy as heck. Okay, we're gonna watch this Ed puzzle together because it explains it way better than I could ever. So we're gonna watch this video that I've included within a video. Yes, it's a video within a video. Answer the questions like normal, and it'll explain the Roman Republic, Senate, and what the councils were as well.
Today, our calendar year is made up of 12 distinct months. Have you ever thought about how the months got their names? Believe it or not, the calendar dates back to ancient Rome, and month names have Roman meanings. How do you think the ancient Romans named the months of the year? Many of the months are named after Roman gods. January was named after Janus, the god of doorways and transitions, and March after Mars, the god of war. But July and August are named after 2 very powerful people, Julius Caesar and Augustus. The story of these 2 men explains the birth of one of the ancient world's most powerful civilizations, the Roman Empire. We'll explore that story in today's lesson. Let's dive in. 500 years before the time of Caesar and Augustus, Roman civilization began with a city governed not by a mayor, but by kings. The kings of Rome enjoyed absolute power over the city for life. But after the people overthrew an unpopular king in 509 BCE, a new kind of government was formed, the Roman Republic. In a republic, the people elect representatives to administer government. In ancient Rome, the Senate was in charge of writing laws and deciding when to wage war. Romans also elected 2 consuls to 1-year terms. Each consul had the power to veto or overturn the other's decisions in order to ensure that neither could abuse their power, like a king. In times of emergency, the Senate could name a dictator, one all-powerful leader with the authority to carry out a single mission without veto. When the emergency ended, the dictator was supposed to resign. This power proved useful to the Roman Republic early on, when a plot was discovered to overthrow the government and restore the former king to power. Titus Lartius was named dictator, successfully ended the plot, and swiftly resigned. Let's pause for a moment and think. How was a Roman dictator different from a king? Roman dictators' power was temporary, lasting only during times of emergency, like war. And Rome fought plenty of wars. Over the next 350 years, Rome conquered the Italian peninsula and much of the Mediterranean world. That extensive foreign conquest created wealth for Romans who led armies and governed new lands. But many of Rome's common people didn't share in that wealth and were largely ignored by the Senate in the 100s BCE. For soldiers, loyalty to the general that paid them became more important than loyalty to the Republic. And for many senators, dreams of personal power and prestige became their highest priority. This moral decay was identified by the famous Roman philosopher Cicero when he wrote that those in government should always do 2 things. 1, that they so watch for the well-being of their fellow citizens, forgetting their own private interests. The other, that they care for the whole body politic, and not, while they watch over a portion of it, neglect other portions. According to Cicero, which of the following should a government official do? Cicero argued that those in government should watch out for the well-being of all citizens, not just some people, and definitely not just themselves. Unfortunately for the Roman Republic, that is not what happened. Three men of extraordinary ambition united forces to dominate Roman politics in 60 BCE for their own personal gain. Marcus Licinius Crassus, one of Rome's wealthiest men, and two generals, Gnaeus Pompeius Magnus, or Pompey, and Gaius Julius Caesar. Together they are known as the First Triumvirate. For more than 10 years, the three men worked together to increase their own power and prestige. Caesar, for example, was elected consul in 59 BCE. He first grew his popularity among the common people by supporting policies to help the poor. The following year, his armies marched into Gaul and conquered it in the name of Rome. Caesar's success and popularity made Pompey jealous and distrustful. When Crassus died in 53 BCE, the First Triumvirate was no more. Pompey persuaded the Senate to disband Caesar's armies and forbid him from seeking another term as consul. Caesar responded with bold action. He marched his army on Rome itself, causing a civil war. By 44 BCE, Caesar defeated Pompey and his allies, making him the most powerful man in Roman society. He used that power to declare himself dictator for life. Dictator for life? That sounds a lot like a king, something the Senate was fearful of. And so, a group of senators did what they thought they had to do. They assassinated Caesar. Rather than save the Republic, Caesar's assassination only delayed the creation of a Roman Empire. Vowing to avenge his death, three of Caesar's supporters quickly formed an alliance known as the Second Triumvirate. Caesar's adopted son Octavian joined forces with two of Caesar's allies, Mark Antony and Marcus Aemilius Lepidus, to hunt down Caesar's assassins. In the process, they used their armies to take control of most Roman lands for themselves. Like the first triumvirate before them, these men were both ambitious and distrustful of one another. What do you think happened to the second triumvirate? By 31 BCE, the second triumvirate was no more. Octavian forced Lepidus into retirement and waged war against Mark Antony. When Octavian emerged victorious, a new chapter in Rome's history had begun. Octavian gave himself the title Imperator, or commander, of all Roman armies. But rather than name himself dictator for life and risk offending the Senate, as Julius Caesar had, Octavian was careful to appear to follow the traditions of the Republic. He was elected consul in 27 BCE. The Senate bestowed upon him two more titles, Princeps Senatus, meaning leader of the Senate, which he maintained for the rest of his life, and Augustus, the Great One, an honor that he adopted as his new name. What do the titles Imperator, Princeps, and Augustus tell you about the power Octavian achieved? Octavian, now Augustus, had acquired more power than anyone before him in the history of Rome. As the unquestioned leader of the Roman military and government, Augustus soon became the first Roman emperor. He used his vast power to pursue policies that improved the life of Rome's common people and used the military to double the size of Rome's territory. The Roman Republic was no more. The Senate continued to exist, but true power resided in emperors like Augustus who passed their vast powers to unelected successors. For the next 400 years, the Roman Empire would dominate the Mediterranean world. Now it's time to show what you know. Think back to the events that led up to the creation of the Roman Empire. What events marked the beginning and end of the Roman Republic? The Roman Republic was born in 509 BCE with the overthrow of the last Roman king and the establishment of an elected government. The personal ambitions of wealthy Roman generals, like Julius Caesar, led to a crisis in the Republic during the 100s BCE. And then, with the emergence of Augustus as the first Roman emperor by 27 BCE, the Republic transformed into an empire. Thanks for learning with us today and for taking another step toward putting together the pieces of the past.
All right, welcome back. So, before we move on, yes, there's kind of like the historical side of how Rome was built, but there's also a mythology side of it. Okay? So, The whole mythology of how Rome came to be can be explained in one story, and that one story's elements can all be explained within this picture right here. Yes, this odd looking picture. Yep, that one. So here's my question. Just going off this picture, what do you think this story of how Rome was created is about? Now, take your best guess on this. I don't expect you guys to actually know this answer. I just want to see what you guys think. And it's sure to be interesting. All right. So the story is actually of Romulus and Remus. That statue that you saw before is one of the most famous statues about this. Romulus and Remus were twin brothers. They were abandoned by their parents and they were nursed back to health by a wolf. Her name was Lupa. Uh, and then they were found by a shepherd, and the shepherd like raised them as humans. But to honor Lupa, Romulus and Remus were like, "Hey, let's go build a city and honor Lupa for saving our lives." So the brothers fought over the location of the city. Romulus actually ended up being killed. No, Romulus killed Remus and built the city on Palatine Hill. Hence, the city would be named Rome. Get it? Romulus, Rome, after himself, and then he declared himself the first king. So that's the super short version. There's a lot longer version than this. YouTube has a lot of videos. Yeah, this is a good one. I like that. It's funny. All right. Next up, you are actually going to not do this. You are going to do the U4-L3. It's a reading about Roman emperors. Sorry, I forgot to change the slide. But if you do have any questions or comments, email me or come to office hours Thursday and Friday, 12 to 1, or email me to set an appointment. Or just email me. That works too. Whatever. All right, that's all I got. See ya.